Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we have a bonus midweek meta deck for you. Yesterday I played one of the decks that split the finals of the Legacy Showcase Challenge. Today I'm playing the other deck that split the finals. So this is Turn 1 Glistener Elf's Mono Red Stompy deck. Now I've seen Mono Red Stompy decks on this channel a fair few times, and you know, this is very much in the same ballpark as all the other ones we've played. In fact, the card choices are almost identical to some of them, but there are a few interesting differences. So the backbone of the deck is fast mana, Ancient Tomb, City of Traitors, Chrome Mox, Spirit Guide. We're trying to power things out ahead of curve. And those things are trying to lock the game out. So Chalice of the Void is a good one for locking out 1-drops most of the time, but sometimes we put it on 0 for decks like 8-cast or Storm. We have Trinisphere to just make it really difficult for our opponent to put spells into play. We've got some Blood Moons and a Magus of the Moon to shut off a bunch of mana. And the earlier the Blood Moon comes down, the more powerful it is. If we get this down before they get to play any fetch lands, then we can just shut off their ability to fetch basics, and it can just end the game right there and then. And then the rest of the deck is like threats and selection, really. So Fail the Breaker is selection, but it's also a reasonable threat. It gives us a little bit of mana ramp, it does some stuff, and once it flips, then we can start copying things like Fury, or Chaos Adventurer, or even Rabblemaster. But we have Bombardiers to control the board, which is a nice tool that Red has access to these days. And we've got some spare things to throw at whatever we want to try and keep the board clear. And the Rabblemaster I mentioned as well, just another threat. So we can power out threats on turn 1 as well as disruption pieces. But we're aiming to try and disrupt and then win the game for the most part. Some of the interesting things in this particular one, we have a Sokenzan and 3 Den of the Bugbears, which is quite a lot of like business lands that do other stuff for a Red Prison deck. And obviously it worked for the pilot of this deck because they split the finals of the Legacy Showcase Challenge. So I'm curious to see how that impacts how this plays out. Much of this is similar to the stuff we played before, but I thought it was only fair since we played the other deck that split the finals that we play this one as well. Sideboard wise, we got Graveyard Hate. We've got ways of bouncing creatures or picking off little creatures if we need to. We've got another Chaos Adventurer for when the initiative is going to be a useful thing for us to leverage. A Null Rod for the artifact heavy matchups. Fiery Confluence for, again, artifact heavy matchups, but this can also shred a bunch of small creatures and do some other interesting things. And we have a couple more Magus for when we really want to put the Magus of the Blood Moons into play and really jam our opponent up if they're relying on having some non-basic lands. And that is the deck. I don't really think I have to go much more into it, so let's just start jamming a league. Remember to like and subscribe, and here we go. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Our opening hand allows us to make Trinisphere into Blood Moon, which is pretty good, and we can change the order around. I think we will keep this one. Generally, I'm not big on keeping just hands with prison pieces, but our deck is a bit more on the prison-y side than previous iterations of this deck have been that run like 4 Chaos Adventure. We're not on that. Our opponent went to 5. Interesting. So we'll play out this Ancient Tomb. That's Chrome Mox. We'll imprint one of these Blood Moons. We'll jam ourselves a Trinisphere because I believe it might be more difficult for our opponent to get more mana than playing other colours right now because they've just shown us a basic mountain. We could be on a mirror here. A Rabblemaster. Okay. That's a pretty good one. Alright, so we can play this Bombardiers out. But then what? We probably want to throw something at their Rabblemaster. So I think we are using our Chrome Mox here. Go to attacks. Let's kill this using the Chrome Mox. And then we can follow up with a Spirit Guide. And then throw that at something. And then maybe throw the Trinisphere if we have to. This is only creatures and artifacts. The Hearse is interesting. So if we play a Blood Moon here, we shut our opponent off of 3 mana underneath this. And that's probably quite useful too. Do we want this Ancient Tomb mana? I think so. Let's play this. Oh, it's 3 mana, isn't it, actually? So if we wanted to play the Blood Moon, we'll have to give up the Simian Spirit Guide to do this. Is that worth it? I think we're going to attack first. The Unlicensed Hearse is something we can throw as well. Yeah, I think this makes sense still. Alright, let's play the Hearse. And then let's play the Blood Moon. So now we might have shut our opponent off of having 3 mana to cast any spells. Right. And then we can throw what we want our opponent when the time comes. Oh, I missed an activation of our unlicensed test then. Another Broadside Bombardiers. That seems a-okay to me. We'll put our opponent to 14. Next turn. Sorry, to 12. The next turn we can hit them down to 8. And then this is 5 damage and this is 4 damage. So that will be lethal. Alright, they've conceded. We managed to win the mirror. Alright, so Blood Moons. And so a lot of our deck doesn't actually do very much in this matchup, potentially. So all of these prisony pieces don't really do the most. I would like some Dead Gons here. I would like some Fiery Confluence. I think Caves of Chaos Adventure is fine here. And then we've still got a whole bunch of extra cards to chuck in. So, what are we looking at? Hearse can be a threat that we scale up, but doesn't really impact the board. Chalice the Void also doesn't really impact the board, though. Blood Moon, I guess. We'll have some unlicensed Hearse, and we'll have some Magus the Moons because they're creatures, so they can at least turn sideways and do some stuff, crew our Hearse. And then again, we're still looking for a couple more cards. We can either have red cards, just to pitch to things like Fury, or we could just have a couple of Trinisphere in case we end up in a situation where that does work. So I think we're probably on the Trinisphere. We're not really looking to cast them. But, you know, situations can arise. They're much better on the play if we can just say, turn 1, shut some things down. This is a turn 1 Fable the Mirror Breaker, which is very strong. Right, just a mountain from our opponent. Okay, that's not too bad. So we could be seeing something like a Dead Gone on what we play this turn. So I think we are leading out on an Ancient Tomb here. Chrome Mox, I think we imprint the Magus here. Like, yes, it's our only red source, but we're about to get a Fable the Mirror Breaker, which can draw us more red sources, and it can also give us the treasure, which does a similar thing. Okay, Chrome Mox from our opponent. Imprinting a Simian Spirit Guide. A Cavern of Souls. So they're on a different build to us, actually. They're probably on more classic goblins. Alright, yes, they're on more of a classic goblins, whereas we're on a prisony build. So let's see what they find here. So we can use this to kill the sticker goblin in response when they play it next turn. I would like to get rid of some Ancient Tombs, please. A Shatterskull Smashing. That could be good later on. But we're just in the attack with our Shaman token and carry on with life, hopefully. So we do have Furies in our deck, which are going to be incredible in this matchup, provided we don't just get one tapped by something like a sticker goblin. Right, so we're going to kill this in response. The trigger, it has to be in play for this to do anything. So we've avoided them getting a super ritual. We do need to find some more business, though. Like the Shatterskull Smashing is almost certainly going to be removal. Fiery Confluence, interesting. So we can kill this and their matron. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think we probably need to do this, don't we? Are they going to throw their matron on the bus? Maybe. Do you need double red for this? But we have that. So I think we're going to play this city now to save a bit of life. I'm going to cast this. I would like to deal 1 damage to each creature, 2 damage to each opponent, and destroy target artifact. So we can do the giant Shatterskull Smashing, because if you do it for 6 or more, it basically doubles. So we can deal 12 damage to 2 of their guys in total. Or more than that, because we have lots of mana. Wouldn't mind some business, but it is what it is. A Fury. This is pitch cast. So it's going to take out what is effectively one of our cards, but it's also left behind treasure. But now we don't really have a clock. So our opponent just can draw up into their richer density of threats, which could be a bit of an issue for us. A War Chief. Okay. This can allow them to put a Mux into play next turn, perhaps, with a land drop. So I think we're priced into killing this now. And we'll pass. Ringleader, it's a pretty big gassing up here, potentially. 4 hits. I don't think we're beating that here. We could put a Trinisphere into play to stop them putting multiple things, but most of their stuff is costing a lot. It's basically just going to make the Battlecry Goblin cost 1 more. So it's not the be-all and end-all. Right, so they've gone for Rabblemaster first. Probably going to give us a bit of trouble. Right, so they're also going to follow up with the Bombardiers. Now, we've still got more Fiery Confluence, which can sweep this board. But we take, what? 2, 4, 5 here. They can throw this at us for another 6. Yeah. It's just putting us to 3, which is going to be a bit tricky for us to get through. All right, we got nothing. Let's go back here and try again. Do I want Blood Moons? I don't think they're better than anything we already have. Maybe Unlicensed Hearse. Now we know the matchup is a little bit different. Maybe we can shut them off with Soul Lands is more important. I can buy that. That's one less thing that we can fling though. And we're going to need to fling a load of stuff with our broadside. So maybe we want this Trinisphere. Well, the Trinisphere doesn't seem great because they're just going to be putting everything off of Soul Lands. So maybe we want these Hearses just as something to fling. And the Blood Moons on the play, we can shut off there. Soul Lands. What does this hand do? Nothing on turn 1. Something on turn 2 that's not that impressive. I think we need something stronger. Alright. Fury is certainly a card I'm happy to see. And keep this. Get rid of the Sokenzan. We're just going to come into play tap land, I think, here. Next turn we can Fable. Broadside Bombardiers. That's a pretty good 3-drop. And the Fury. If we can get to hard casting Furies, that would be pretty good. So we're going to try and put a Fable into play and force them to sacrifice one of their goblins to try and kill our guy at least. So maybe they play something like a Rabblemaster and then we can try and Fury them up next turn. I would like to draw a Soul Land, obviously. Okay, stick a goblin. This is probably going to be a pretty bad turn for us. Alright, they low rolled. But they have another one. And that one mid-rolled, but with the additional mana they had before, that's enough for a Muxus. Another one of these. Alright. How dead are we? Not quite. But next turn's not going to be great for us. We don't get to block these because of Menace. Do they want to shoot our Goblin Shaman? If we get to attack with it, it means we can hard cast a Fury. Potentially. Right, it's just going straight to the face. Understood. And to the face again. Yikes. So no to this. So we don't get to hard cast this Fury. Get to pitch cast this Fury though. And we'll put 2 damage on each of these, and that cleans them up quite nicely. And then we have this dead gone. Are we attacking here? I would quite like a token. No, I think we hold back just because there's a bunch of hasty guys. So they might have a scarier hasty guy, which means saving the dead gone for that might be more important. Alright, we probably have to shoot this down. Or do we use our shaman? No, I think we just shoot this down. So if we can get our Goblin Shamans to the point we can copy it with our Fable, then we can have a nice chump block. Like repeated chump block. No other play. Excellent. So I might have a red card in hand. Okay, so drawn a blank here. But we get to attack here. And this means that we can hard cast Furies that we draw. If we can fade this turn, I'll feel good. Alright, we did. Okay. Magus of the Moon. That will give them access to red, but gets them further away from Muxus. So I think that is an acceptable thing for us to put into play right now. Attack with just this, and then next turn we can copy. This way we just have more stuff on blocks if something does go wrong. We have given them access to red, but they are a long way from Muxus now. Right, no play here. That's pretty good news for us. Let's copy this Goblin. We're going to keep this Ancient Tomb in hand. We don't want to tap it ever anyway. I suppose it's a mountain, but we'd much rather have it to pitch to another Fable down the line. Goblin War Chief. Okay. Let's copy our Shaman again. So technically, we can attack for lethal here. What can they have for 1 red mana? That's kind of what I'm worried about. Because if we go in at everything here and they have... I guess they have to have multiple removal spells. Alright, I think we just try and put the game to bed here. Alright, so we got it. We also had the replacement Moon. If like they had some way of killing a guy and chump blocking, we could still stop them having Muxus mana potentially. Surprised we got through that one. But yeah, we did. So let's go to round 2. Our hand is a turn 1 Magus or Blood Moon. That seems pretty reasonable. I'll keep that one. We are on the draw, so it might be less powerful than it would be on the play. Ancient Tomb. Sphere of Resistance. Interesting. So we'll play our Ancient Tomb. Do you want a Magus or a Blood Moon? I think we would prefer the Magus here, because at least it gets us towards winning the game a little bit. Alright. I'll opponent is likely to be on a land strategy, but it could be some sort of artifact stompy deck. Those are pretty much the places you see Sphere of Resistance these days. Our opponent was unhappy with that. I don't know if they're on lands or if they're on artifacts. And our sideboarding is very different. I suppose Fury can probably get trimmed. Maybe a Cage of Chaos Adventurer here. And it seems like the Blood Moon too much. I kind of want these Confluences. Potentially. They're bad against lands, but they're good against if they're like a solid artifact deck. I think we'll run a couple of those, and then we'll reappraise the situation in a minute. Do we want Null Rods? Possibly. I think it's hard to say. We're kind of sideboarding in between. Maybe we don't want these Chalices. Take these and try something like this. This is a turn 1 Magus, but it's not amazing. I think it's fine. Okay, so we're probably on the land side over here. Exploration, sure. We will be putting quite a lot of resources into shutting this down. Haywire Might, sure. Soul Land would be an excellent draw. Not a Soul Land. Okay. Chrome Mox. I think the Bombardiers goes here. And we want to save a Rabblemaster as a threat. Force of Vigor. That's a pretty heads-up Force of Vigor. Right, so we'll play this one. Not great into the face of the Haywire Might, to be honest with you. But we're going to shut off things like crop rotation here. What do they pitch to this? Endurance. Right, so we're going to need a little bit of help off the top of our deck. I can make a 20/20 in response to us putting a Blood Moon into play. Actually, no, they need this to be gone, so we need to have more cards in hand than they currently have for that to work. Taking out our Chrome Mox. Yep, that's awkward. Right, so they're just on making constructs, which can then get an expedition map. I think we're probably dead here. So this turn they make a construct, next turn they make expedition map. Turn after they get us with the Marit Lage. At least we know what we're up against this time, which helps. We basically have one window now to draw a Soul Land to try and shut this down. But even that might not be good enough. If they drew a land, they make a token. If they drew a non-land, then they don't make a token. Alright. They're not making a token. They did draw a land. Well, they can make the Marit Lage anyway here, and we're just dead. Alright. Now we know what we're up against. Fiery Confluence, not so interesting here. The Dead Gone, just for their combo, is quite nice. I like the Chaos of Chaos Adventurer. I like the Unlicensed Hearse. Do we want these other Chalices, and what do they come in for? Trinisphere is okay here. Can do some work. A lot of our threats are pretty fine here too. I think the Chalice of the Void is better than the Trinisphere, so we'll just have one Trinisphere. We could run Leylines here, but I think that's more for the unfair graveyard decks. This is a turn 1 Chalice, turn 2 Magus of the Moon. With protection against Marit Lage. I think we keep this. Like a Wasteland here before we get to play our Magus will definitely be irritating. But this should limit what our opponent can do this turn. Right, I'm just going straight for the Wasteland. Fair enough. City of Traitors, that's not really the one we want here, so we'll play this one. We'll not play the 3 life. And we'll pass. I believe our opponent's on like proper lands, not green-white depths. So holding up this Dead Gone to kill a Reclaimer isn't really a thing that we want to do, especially since we have the Chalice to protect from them casting one anyway. They can go get green source here. They would have green off of the Mox Diamond as well. I'm going to play out this Rabblemaster first, because I think our opponent's got a source to Plowshares, and I want to keep this Magus protected. Okay, maybe they don't have a Plow, or they're... Well, sorry, not Plow, a Celestial Purge is the new tech that lands are running. The white removal spell that also hits red stuff. It's red-black exile. I know Ali has been championing that, and he's very much the go-to person for lands. They can't plow through our Chalice, but they might be able to get through with the Purge. Alright, so they got Beseiju on this. Yes, I would like a free land. Okay. Haywire Might. Do I care about this Haywire Might? I don't think I do. Right, let's play this Magus into Broadside Bombardiers. So what they can do is they can put a Dark Depths into play and then kill our Magus and get a 2020, but we have the answer for that in the form of Dead Gone. We gain 2 life here. This is worth just throwing a guy upstairs. Alright, Magus of the Moon, getting it done against lands decks, not really a surprise. We are 2-0, let's sail into round 3. So our hand makes a turn 1 Blood Moon, but doesn't do anything after that. I think we need to mulligan for something that has a follow-up, or, you know, something else we can be getting on with. This does have other things we can be getting on with. If we want to play the Hearse, if we want to play the Blood Moon on turn 1, it's going to cost us the Fable. I guess either way, we're probably throwing away the Den of the Bugbear. Hopefully our opponent's turn informs us what we're going to do with ours. An Ancient Tomb, okay. And all as a board, so probably looking at some sort of 8 cast, or like the Coveted Jewel deck, somewhere along that ballpark. Alright, we don't care about this, that's nice. Unlicensed Hearse is nice, provided we have an Emery to try and counter. But we can wait till the Emery comes down, then play the Hearse. So we do have to make a decision with our Fable of the Mirror Breaker. If we put this underneath the Blood Moon, it can shut off our opponent off of a decent amount of stuff. But we are going to be looking for a threat. We could just get the Fable running and just hope that that's good. It will cost us our Blood Moon, which is an answer to Urza's Saga, which is one of the most potent things. I think I'd rather be safe against Urza's Saga, because that's the thing that's really going to jam us up, I think. The other option there is to play the Hearse and try and hold out for a better red card, and then just try and use that to control graveyards for a turn. But I'd rather shut our opponent's mana off as best we can. Got dinosaur over there. Well, that's technically a lizard, not a dinosaur. This is a mosasaur. But there's some information for you right there that you didn't need about dinosaurs, or not so much dinosaurs. Alright, so they cracked a ball targeting us. Not really doing anything over there. A mountain. Well, all of our lands are mountains, so... Right, here comes the Hearse. Definitely feels more like our opponent is on the 8-cast train rather than one of the more sort of combo-y Paradoxical Outcome or Coveted Jewel decks. Right, there's a guy. We get to gobble up these 2 lands. Alright. Not going according to plan right now. So we're not going to play any more lands in case we draw a Fable and can loot them away. So I wish we played the Fable instead of the Blood Moon, but we don't know how many Urza Sagas are in our opponent's hand. We could just get jammed up by a bunch of Urza Sagas. Although this Patches is going to do some work. Okay. It's a guy. It gets to crew our unlicensed Hearse, if that's the thing we want. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we don't need to play it on the City of Traitors because we can use this to hardcast a Fury if we draw one anyway. So we can make a decision when we get there. And Urza's Bauble. Patches growing. Alright. We'll take it here. We'll grow our unlicensed Hearse slightly. We need some action here. It's not action, is it? If we attack... I guess we are attacking here. Now that we've got 2 cards that we still want to loot away, we can play one of these cities. Chalice of the Void. We can play this on 0. That shuts down a decent chunk of our opponent's deck. Kind of need them to crack a Lotus Petal or something and give us... Alright, they're doing something here. They're bouncing our Blood Moon. Okay, so we can block and kill Patches right now. There's the Urza Saga. Right, if they're going to attack here, that would be an error. Alright. So, our opponent's hand almost certainly contains Force of Will. They bounce this when they're ready to counter on the way back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so they can use the Lotus Petal for this. And just hard cast the Force. Yep, that's what we're seeing. I don't even need to use the Lotus Petal actually, do they? Because they got the Mox Opal online. Okay. I think our life total is worth preserving here. Force of Will, pitching Force of Will. Okay. So at some point they can go and get Pith and Needle and just stop our unlicensed Hearse from being able to be crewed. And that's going to be a sad time for us. But we very much got the... Yeah, so we were right that Urza Saga was a big thing they can have for us. And they've probably been sandbagging these for a while. Right. Mox Opal into the Chalice. This will grow the Patchwork. So our hearse is a 7/7 on blocks. So unlikely to attack. Right. They agreed. Another unlicensed hearse. What does that actually do for us here? Is it as good as being able to activate Den of the Bugbear as another thing to activate our hearse? No, I think being able to activate the Den here is more important. These Urza Sagas gonna cause us some dismay, I would imagine. Problem here is they can get an Ether Spell Bomb or they can get a Pity Needle. So if we activate the hearse, they just bounce it with a Spell Bomb. Otherwise, they just get the needle. So we're kind of in trouble regardless. Yep, so there's the Spell Bomb to bounce the hearse. I don't think we're winning this game. I think I'm just going to pack it up and save our time for the other games. Okay, so Null Rod, actively good here. We can board out these Chrome Moxes, going to be putting Chalice on 0 anyway. These Fiery Confluences seem good. Not so sure we want our own Chaos Adventurer. I do like the Magus of the Moon though, but where does it fit in is the next question. The Unlicensed Hearse is decent. I like having threats to actually win the game with. Maybe we don't have room for those two Maguses, because we definitely want the Fiery Confluences and the Null Rods. And is Magus better than Fury? Maybe it is actually. Like between Magus and Null Rod, we can just shut them off with being able to play the game. We've taken out some of our acceleration though, so that is something to worry about. So this is turn 1 Chalice into turn 2 Trinisphere, no red mana. How do we get a victory from there? We put the Chalice on 0. Chalice on 0 is really good. We'd just be looking to draw any coloured source, but we have just brought it out for Chrome Mox. I think we have to mulligan this, sad as that is. This hand is functional, but a lot less interesting. I'll keep it. I think it's probably the Rabblemaster that goes. So I think we play the Fable on turn 1. And we just get some mana drops underneath us from this. And then we can play the Trinisphere. It does mean they get to unload a bunch of stuff on turn 1, but if we don't draw another land, then we got nothing. Whereas this Shaman allows us to fix our draws and give us the mana to cast stuff. That's 2 spells we could have countered. 3 spells we could have countered. And a Dismember. Okay, so the worst of all worlds. Trinisphere would have been a much better start to this game. But if we don't hit a land, then it doesn't matter anyway. I think we're going to ditch the Trinisphere. Is that crazy talk? I want to get this Fiery Confluence online. We do need to hit the next land drop. I think we have to. Alright, so we found a play that we can make, which is also something. Less good with Null Rods. Maybe these were supposed to come out, actually. I'm not sure. I'm not really an expert on these mono red decks. But being able to deal with Emery feels good. But then if we can just shut down everything anyway, we don't care about the Emery from that point. So just get rid of those while we're here. Just F6 return. It's got this patches coming down. We can destroy this, but we need more mana. A lot more mana, because we also have to pay the ward on it. Alright, so we've bricked on lands again. Kind of the danger of boarding out those Chrome Moxes. Maybe that's a mistake. I just don't like the idea of pitching 2 cards for basically +1 mana when we're just trying to play into a Null Rod, ideally. Alright, let's keep making the hearse bigger. Chance of avoid for 0. Let's just slam that right in. Okay. I'm going to make a construct. It's going to be a pretty reasonable size. I think our opponent has us in this game, to be honest. If we would play the turn 1 Trinisphere, maybe we just get in a game where nobody gets to cast anything, but they would have hit 3 lands before we did anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. I went for the option to let us function rather than try and stop our opponent functioning, and kind of failed both ways. So that's a 6/6. I guess I'm just going to take 6 this time around. A Simian Spirit Guide. It is mana. Do we need to hold it for the purposes of trying to get a Fiery Confluence off next turn? I think we do. I think we have to hold it and then do some chump blocking. Must have missed an activation on the hearse, I think. Dismember. So we have to animate this. So they can't crack their Lotus spell this turn at least. Yeah, that one we missed with the Hearst, the previous term, could have been the difference here. Den of the Bugbear. You are not the one here. No, we're just cooked. Yeah, our deck just didn't really perform there, which is a shame. I think if we took the line of the Trinisphere, that doesn't get us out of it either. If we'd have blocked there with the Hearst, and it would have had one more counter on, we're still going to lose this game, which is a bit awkward. So we definitely made a couple of potential... Well, we made one choice. I think that was still the right choice. We made a misstep there. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. We got stomped pretty hard. We're 2-1. Let's go to round 4. Round 4, we've got turn 1 Fable. That's a perfectly serviceable thing to be doing. Does mean that we have to be a little bit careful about what we're doing with our City of Traitors. That might get chucked under the bus here at some point. A Windswept Heath from our opponent. A Snow Forest. Abundant Growth. It's been a hot minute since I've seen one of these, so we're probably looking at enchantments. Oh, it's Doula. Okay, yeah, so we are looking at the enchantment deck. I guess we're still continuing the plan. Since guy gets to live its dream of being permanent mana all the time. And here comes the Fable. Enchantress. We cannot target this because it has Shroud. Then we're getting rid of... I don't really want the Fury when we can't target their guys. We already have the Bombardiers. Okay, the Bombardiers is good. I like the treasure token combo with Broadside Bombardiers. It's just an extra 2 damage a turn. Next turn we can play the other Bombardiers and have an extra 4 damage to go upstairs with. We're probably going to see the 1 mana removal spell here, the enchant land one. Can't remember what it's called. On Thin Ice, there you go. If you look in my playlist for special guest videos, you can find me playing this deck with a special guest. It's better to play Rabblemaster this turn. I think it probably is. I think it's slightly more damage. Next time we can copy Rabblemaster or Broadside Bombardiers, depending on what works for us. And then hurl a bunch of guys at our opponent's face and try and get them. So what they're trying to do now is... Okay, so a bit more card draw. That's fine. They haven't got like the big mana yet, which is nice. And they're going to need a little bit more help. So probably next turn is when they're going to be looking to drop something like the Serra Sanctum, but we might be able to just kill them next turn instead, which I approve of. Leyline Binding. What are you going to take here? Is it going to be the Reflection or is it going to be the Rabblemaster? Both pretty reasonable choices. Oh, they're just going to take both. Okay. Pretty easy to choose which one to take when you can have them both. Alright. Yeah, our opponent is beginning to turn the corner a little here. We're just going to fling this, so we're going to say no. Let's get rid of this Sithis. Alright, our opponent's on 9. They got quite a bit of mana over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, not too much, but if they play a Sanctum, it's going to be a lot. Another Enchantress. And a Utopia Sprawl. The Leyline Binding, 9 Leah's Presence is a really cool combo because this makes it all types. So this just makes the Leyline Bindings cost 1, which is really, really tasty. Alright. So I think our opponent just got another turn of drawing a bunch of cards. Digging for removal, staying alive, and then eventually they're going to have loads of mana. Okay. Stats for a lot. Paladin class. Creatures you control get +1/+1. You could use some other stuff. It's kind of like a Thalia, but there's an enchantment. But it's only spells on your turn that your opponent plays. Sithis. More cards. Yep. 9 Leah's Presence. We're seeing more and more stuff hit the board. On to Ice, we're going to lose another creature. I don't know if this is a surmountable board state anymore. I think our opponent just has us here. We'll take another draw step, but I think our opponent's probably A-okay. They can put an Emrakul on the stack next turn and get us. Yeah, we got nothing. Yeah, pretty effective. Now, what do we want from the sideboard? If we can slap down an early Chaos of Chaos Venture, that's probably going to do something. We can use this to kill their Shroud creatures. So these might be better than having the Furies, to be honest. Do you want more Magus of the Moon so we can deal with their Serra Sanctum and stop that making a whole bunch of mana? Yeah, I think that seems like a good thing to do. That gives us one other slot. I guess we probably just want a Fury in case we do want to blow some stuff up. This also beats down, whereas Dead and Gone doesn't. That seems fine. Let's go back in. Red, not famous for its enchantment removal, that's for sure. What does our hand do? Turn 1, Bombardiers. Turn 2, Bombardiers. Alright, once again, Simian Spirit Guide gets to live its best life. Maybe we're supposed to mulligan for more disruptive elements. But I like being able to kill their Shrouded guy. Yep, Utopia Sprawl, the classic start from Enchantress. I'm not going to be throwing my Chrome Mox at my opponent just yet. Right, Enchantress. This gives us the thing we wanted, right? Oh, another Bombardiers though. I do think we just want to get the engine out from underneath our opponent as soon as we can. 1 damage to each creature. And then 2 damage to each opponent. Twice. To take out the Enchantress. Let us bash for a bunch. Yeah, and then we sacrifice the Bombardiers and kill them. Cool. That was pretty effective. Wouldn't mind doing that again. Let's just go back in. I think the aggro plan is pretty effective. Our hand doesn't really do very much very quickly, so I think we need to mulligan this one. Turn 2, Chaos of Chaos Adventure. That might be fast enough. Let's throw back a city and call it a day there. No play from our opponent on turn 1. That's pretty good news for us. Probably Fiery Confluence. Sorry, not Fiery. Shatterskull Smashing on turn 1 here. And then turn 2, we can use Ancient Tomb plus Simian Spirit Guide and power out big tasty Chaos of Chaos Adventurer. Our opponent might struggle to get the initiative back. Okay, this does not attack with power, so that's probably not going to get the initiative back. So I'm pretty confident in our Chaos of Chaos Adventurer doing some work for us here. Magus of the Moon is interesting. But let's just play the big Chaos of Chaos Adventurer lady. A mountain. And this is a very powerful clock if it sticks around. It might not stick around, but we still get to go into the Lost Well if they kill it. Abundant Growth? Sure. No other play there, interesting. Our opponent probably has something here. Do I want to put all our eggs in the Chaos of Chaos Adventurer basket? I think so. Right, we'll attack. See what we get off the top for free. So if they had a removal spell, they probably would have used it before we attacked here. Shatterskull Smashing. That's not that exciting to me. Blue, black, green, white. So they're going to do Leyline Binding here? Yeah. So is it better to get rid of their draw engine? Or to get this Magus of the Moon shutting down some of these colours to basically make their mana useless this turn? I think I'll take the Magus this turn. Curse of Silence. Interesting. Choose a card name. Spells with the cost 2 more to cast. Okay. Let's see what they choose. Broadside Bombardiers. Do we get to trap our opponent now? Trinisphere is pretty useful here. Let's attack. Like, the whole thing is trying to play lots and lots of spells. So I think this Trinisphere is very much the sort of thing we're after. And then next turn we can Fiery Confluence and deal 6 if we want to, depending on if they block or not. So this might reduce our opponent to only playing 1 spell. If they've got some sort of enchantment that gives them extra mana, then they can play 2 spells this turn, but that's not the most exciting thing for them. And we get to throw into 3 soon, hopefully. Goblin Rabblemaster, you say? That's quite exciting. If we Rabblemaster, just trying to work out if we want to kill this, I'll go through Enchantress more than we want to Rabblemaster. I think Rabblemaster is the way. Dress down. Okay. That turns on some of their stuff. Attack here still. Next turn we can have lethal. So we have hopefully some lethal damage coming our opponent's way next turn. On thin ice. Well, that's one step towards us no longer having that. So this could take our Magus and unlock their Serra's Sanctum. But they are still underneath the Trinisphere. So we got what, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they can cast 2 spells here. Alright, we're getting to go into Throne of the Dead 3 now. So Leyline Binding is an instance they can fire that off when they want to. Alright, they're playing a dress down beforehand. Interesting. This is going to shut off our ability to get an extra token off the Rabblemaster. Okay, I'll have a massive Broadside Bombardiers. It doesn't have haste though. A pity. Fiery Confluence. So we can do 12 damage, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll deal 1 damage to each creature and 2 to each opponent. And then we'll do the other one just fully upstairs and just stone them for 6. We got there. Yeah, how do I feel about that one? Well, scoreboard, right? We definitely got a decent selection of draws at times. Our opponent was pretty close to turning the corner there. The extra burn to the face so often in this deck does actually make the difference, and Fiery Confluence was good. So we go on to the final round looking for the 4-1. We are currently 3-1. Welcome to the final round. We're on the play, and our hand is turn 1 Chalice, turn 2 Blood Moon or Rabblemaster. That seems acceptable to me. Being on the play makes this extra tasty. Basic Mountain, Chrome Mox, imprinting a Blood Moon. Jam this little Chalice. Let's see what our opponent does about this. Eye of Ugin. Eldrazi Mimic. It's a blast from the past. This is actually a deck that I used to play once upon a time. I used to play Eldrazi Stompy when it was good. I think it's the only deck that every single time I took it to a 6 or more round tournament, I cashed and got prizes with it. Okay, it was 3 tournaments, but still, not bad. Alright. So we shut off their soul lands quite effectively here. Now we get to make a Rabblemaster this turn. Next turn we get to start flinging stuff at our opponent. We don't really have stuff we want to change in our hand, which is why I didn't play the Fable. Like this into this is good. We're going to be on a bit of a race. They're going to struggle to get the colourless pits for things like Thought Not Seer. Okay. Grim Monolith can help with that. So they can play Thought Not Seer right now, which is actually pretty good against our Bombardiers. Because they'll take this, and then we're kind of behind on board now. Yep, so there goes our Broadside Bombardiers. This becomes a 4-4 until end of turn. And we take quite a big chunk of damage to the face here. Right, we're going to play this. Unfortunately, our Goblin is just going to charge our opponents. We could charge with the Rabblemaster as well, and they have to decide if they want to trade. Yeah, I would take that trade. Oh, they're going for it. Okay. So this trade gives us an extra card as well. It's a mountain. We'll play out our mountain. We don't really want to activate Ancient Tombs. Well, we can't activate Ancient Tombs because of Blood Moon. But we don't really want to play out all of our cards because we want to pitch something to Fable. But we want to at least have the option of playing Fury if we draw it next turn. So we want to get a land down. Just going to keep chipping in with this little guy. Going to need to find another source of colourless mana soon. Blood Moon doing a lot of work. I would like some better cards, please. Not really what I asked for, was it? We'll send in with these 2. We can hold 1 black to block to the 1/2. I guess we play 1 more land out for the purposes of drawing a Fury, but we don't really want to play it anymore. Alright, so they're putting the mana into the Grim Monolith. So we could see something like a Reality Smasher here, which would very much smash our reality right up. There it is. So this is going to turn their Mimic into a 5/5, but it is a 5/5 we can block. It doesn't get the haste of the Reality Smasher. So we can chump here and save some damage. They might attack with... Okay, they're going in with both. That's fair enough. I was going to say they might attack with just the Mimic and hold this back so they can find another threat. But that's quite a big buyout of crime right there. Trinisphere, not helpful, unfortunately. Let's attack with the Goblin. So we could play out Trinisphere just to stop a Grim Monolith draw being good. I think that's worth doing here. Now we're just trying to survive. We're going to need something to deal with this Reality Smasher. Untapping the Monolith. Right, we're going to take 5. I don't like it, but a Broadside Bombardiers would be very good here. That's not a Broadside Bombardiers, is it? So we have to cast this. And then we copy the Shaman token. So we triple block this Reality Smasher to stay alive. This can block the Mimic. Another Reality Smasher, and we are very much smashed right in our reality. Okay, this looks like what it is. This is 10 trample damage. We have 2, 4, 6, 7. So that's definitely lethal. So rest in pieces, us. Yep, the Grim Monolith certainly helped them out through the Blood Moon. That being said, I would like some more Blood Moons. I don't really want to play things like Caves of Chaos Adventure into them. I don't think that's a great strategy. And the Unlicensed Hearse does nothing here. So do we want something like Fiery Confluence just to get those last bits of damage over the line? That could be good. We could also instead go for something like Dead and Gone, which we can use to blow up their early little creature and then go from there. Chalice is pretty bad in this matchup, so that can come out as well. So maybe we get to run these Fiery Confluences on top of the Dead Gones. I don't think we want to run Caves of Chaos Adventure. When they have a bunch of haste guys and things, that feels like a recipe for disaster. We're on the play, but we don't get to play any spells. This is a mulligan for me. This feels pretty sketchy. I don't think just playing a turn 1 Rabblemaster is going to be good enough. They're almost certainly going to have things like Dismember and things going on. I think we have to mulligan. Okay, this is the best of the bunch so far. So we're probably getting rid of the higher end here. Get rid of the Trinisphere and the Fiery Confluence. The Spirit Guide goes under the Chrome Mox. Play the Magus. And then any land gives us Bombardiers. They can dismember this, but then we get to have our mana again. So, not the end of the world. Chalice for 0. They obviously had even less cards to board in than we had. Alright, we will need a land. An Eldrazi Mimic. Okay, that can challenge our creature. So that's a bit upsetting. Land? Not a land. Okay. I'm just going to keep playing. They could have something like Endless One here. X is 3. Yep, they'll make their Eldrazi Mimic 3/3, and then we can't really do anything with this in combat. And if we wanted to, it'd just be a chump. And now they've got a pretty impressive board. And we're not really in a position where we can sacrifice anything we have anyway. Kind of holding the fort down with this Magus of the Moon. Like this guy goes, and we probably lose the game. Another spell we can't cast. Yeah, I think this is just going to be one of those ones, isn't it? Okay, 5 of the finest damages. Still not a land. I guess we attack for 2. Right, so we're going to get hit for 5 here. And then we're in chump block with our Magus territory if we can't string something together here. Which we can't. Okay. Okay. This is also going to unlock... It will unlock our mana, to be fair. But our mana doesn't really work if we go to 2 here. So if we chump block here, we can still activate our Ancient Tomb. But then what? So if we block here, like we're just dead, right? I don't see how we come out of this one. Our Ancient Tomb is going to be dealing us damage, so this is off anyway. And then they just get to cast their spells here. Yeah, I think we can let our opponent have this one. So yeah, our mana base just did not come together there, which was a bit of a pity. But that's sometimes where the cookie crumbles. We finish with a 3-2, which is, you know, I'm not expert at playing these red decks. I feel we were very close to having a lot better record than that. But sometimes it doesn't always go your way. So let's talk about this list. So compared to the builds of this that I've played a little bit more of that have more of the top end with more Caves of Chaos Adventure, those decks feel a lot easier to play because you just jam your Caves of Chaos Adventure and that wins the game for you on its own. This one, I think the decisions to mulligan and stuff are harder because we have a lot of stuff that may not do anything in a matchup. So Blood Moon might not do anything, Trinisphere might not do very much, Unlicensed Hearse might not do much, Chalice might not do much. We don't necessarily know. Whereas if you've got the one that's just more dedicated to Stompy, and it's like you want to play like turn 1 Fable, Rabblemaster, or maybe even Caves of Chaos Adventure, and that's kind of where you're angling yourselves. That feels a lot easier to make decisions with in terms of what your opening hands are. So if you play this deck enough and you have all the reps in, you're going to have a better idea what that is. So I think the learning curve for this deck is significantly higher than the one that plays for Caves of Chaos Adventurer. But then you will still get the situations where your keep looks pretty good and then doesn't really disrupt your opponent in an effective way. And because you have less threats, like we did have a game where we disrupted a little bit and didn't really have threats to follow it up. So that's kind of a little bit of a drawback, because we do have basically these Unlicensed Hearse, which would sometimes be Caves of Chaos Adventure in some of these lists. And we're running Blood Moons instead of Maguses, which can actually beat down, and are, you know, the Maguses are a little bit more effective. We've got our sort of numbers the other way around from some of the lists. So it does impact how this deck plays out. Even though it's not massive changes, it is enough to make a significant difference. And obviously that's why person who played this deck, Turn 1 Glistener Elf, they made these decisions based on the fact that they'd obviously played a lot of this archetype and knew what they were doing, and they metagame for it, and they knew how to approach all the matchups, and, you know, just the idea of what hands are keepable, what the percentages are to draw everything, how it feels that way. Whereas I don't have that information, and we didn't do quite as well as maybe we could have with a bit more reps with this deck. Nevertheless, like, it's very easy to see why this deck can take down a tournament, because you can just shut down what your opponent's doing. And that's a very powerful thing to do, and that's something that I'm quite fond of doing. I used to play some pretty grindy prison decks back in the old extended days. And I suppose the world has sort of caught up with Caves of Chaos Adventurer now that there's even more 1-drop. So you've got the Stalactite Stalker as well, which is very hard for our deck to block. So there's just more and more ways that your opponents have of taking the initiative off you, so it's not as much of a done deal as it used to be. So I think that probably pushes you away from the Caves of Chaos Adventurer, so it probably does make sense, and you just need to get the reps in to sort of get what you're doing and put more wins on the board, really. So yeah, not quite my sort of deck really for Legacy, but I certainly see why people are attracted to it. It is quite fun to just stomp around and do some stuff, and when it's going well, it's quite interesting. And then also when you get the sort of games where things aren't going quite to plan, you end up playing almost like a weird limited feeling game where you're attacking with like your 3-mana 2-power guys and doing little bits of mass like that. That's quite fun in its own way too. And it does fundamentally change the way a game is played, right? When you're dropping Trinispheres and Chalices and Blood Moons. And I do like big effects that change the way people approach games and have to play games. All right, I don't have much else to say about this one. Congratulations to Turn 1 Glistener Elf, because, you know, splitting the finals of a Legacy Showcase Challenge is a pretty good feat. And it's nice to commend people when they do well. All right, so we played both of the decks now from the Legacy Showcase Challenge that split the finals. So I think I've done my bit, and you've got a little bit of extra midweek meta deck goodness. All right, I'm done for today, so thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.